If you took just one breath here, your body would begin shutting down within minutes. Not because of something you can see, but because of the air itself. Only 7% oxygen remains. The rest has been replaced by gases that don't belong in human biology. Hydrogen sulfide, methane, at concentrations that would kill surface life instantly. And yet, life is here. Dozens of species, entire ecosystems, creatures found nowhere else on Earth. All trapped inside a sealed world, cut off from the surface for over 5 million years. No sunlight. No plants. No known energy source that should support life at all. So the question isn't how anything survives here. The question is, what kind of system is this that it still works at all? But this system didn't appear out of nowhere. To understand it, we have to go back to the moment it was first opened. A moment when scientists expected nothing and accidentally discovered something that should not exist. 1986, Romania, near the Black Sea. The mystery began in 1986 in a desolate, sun-scorched corner of Romania near the Black Sea. Workers were conducting a routine geological survey for a massive new power plant. They weren't looking for ancient life. They were looking for stable bedrock to support thousands of tons of concrete. During a test drill, the ground literally vanished. A 20-meter vertical shaft was revealed, leading into a lightless, oppressive void. Cristian Lascu, a geologist on the team, was the first human to lower himself into the abyss. As he descended the rope, he didn't feel the cool, damp air characteristic of a normal cave. Instead, he felt a heavy, oppressive heat radiating from the walls. And then, the stench hit him. The overwhelming smell of rotting eggs. The signature of concentrated hydrogen sulfide. He had reached a stagnant, lightless pocket of poison. Standard science was absolute. A place this toxic, this deep, and this isolated should be a biological desert. No light means no photosynthesis. No photosynthesis means a dead system. But as his flashlight scanned the sulfur-slicked walls, he saw something that defied every law of ecology he had ever studied. The cave wasn't a tomb. It was vibrating with life. And that's where the math of modern biology completely broke down. The creatures swarming in the toxic mist were biological anomalies. Pale, eyeless, covered in unnaturally long sensors that twitched in the dark. Researchers eventually identified 48 distinct species inhabiting this chemical vault. But here is the paradox that stunned the scientific community. 33 of these species exist nowhere else on the entire planet. They are unique to this single, suffocating pocket of stone. This presents a massive contradiction. How does a complex, multi-tiered food chain thrive in a sealed box with zero light and almost no oxygen? In a world where the sun has been dead for 5 million years, where is the energy coming from? Every ecosystem we know is a pyramid built on light. But here, the pyramid is inverted. There are no plants. There are no seeds. There is no link to the outside world. It's a system that has been evolving, in parallel to our own, for eons. If this cave had been sealed for millions of years, how did life stay so vibrant? How did it not simply starve into extinction? To find the answer, we have to look at the fortress that protected this anomaly. Movile doesn't breathe. Almost every other cave system on Earth is open. They receive nutrients from rainwater or carbon from tree roots piercing the limestone ceiling. They are part of the global biosphere. Movile is a fortress of stone. For 5 million years, a massive, impermeable lid of clay has acted as a hermetic seal. This clay layer is non-porous and incredibly thick, effectively locking this chamber away from the ice ages, the rise of human civilizations, and every mass extinction event on the surface. This isn't just isolation. This is a planetary time capsule. The air inside is 100% humid and chemically volatile. The water isn't life-giving in the traditional sense. It's a corrosive, sulfurous soup bubbling up from the Earth's mantle. It was a world never meant to be opened. But the geology wasn't just hiding a cave. It was maintaining a barometric shield that defies the laws of the surface. The secret to Movile's 5 million year isolation is a unique geological mechanism, the barometric shield. While the cave is carved out of karst limestone, rock that dissolves to create voids, the seal is what makes it extreme. Around 5.5 million years ago, a massive geological shift deposited that thick clay layer over this region. But the clay did more than just block the light. It created a pressure differential. Because of the way the cave is structured, the internal air pressure is slightly higher than the air pressure on the surface. This creates a one-way barometric barrier. Even if a microscopic crack appears in the rock, the alien air inside pushes outward with such force that our fresh air can never leak in. It is a pressure-sealed crucible. The clay acts as a gasket, and the internal gas buildup acts as a lock. While the rest of the world evolved and adapted under the warmth of the sun, the creatures trapped inside this pressure cooker were abandoned by the light. They were forced to find a radical new way to power life. And this is where the physics of the cave takes a turn for the truly extreme. In the world we know, life is an expression of solar energy. But when you descend into the toxic silence of Movile, that fundamental law of physics is discarded. To understand how 48 species can thrive in a place with zero light, we have to look at the water, specifically the strange, white, gelatinous mats floating on the surface of the cave's subterranean lake. In our biosphere, the primary engine is photosynthesis. In Movile, it is chemosynthesis. Deep within the Earth's crust, thermal waters rise through ancient fractures, carrying high concentrations of hydrogen sulfide and methane. As these gases hit the cave's stagnant, low-oxygen atmosphere, a unique group of microorganisms called autotrophic bacteria takes over. These bacteria don't need photons. They perform a high-stakes chemical maneuver. They oxidize the sulfur and methane, stripping away electrons to create energy in the form of ADP. This is the chemical sun of Movile Cave. These bacteria multiply by the billions, creating a thick, nutrient-rich carpet of organic matter. This biofilm is the grass of this underworld, the primary producer that replaces the role of plants. Every single creature in this cave, from the microscopic mites to the apex water scorpions, owes its existence to this invisible chemical reactor. It is a self-sustaining power plant that has been running without a single ray of sunlight for 5 million years. But building a food chain on a foundation of poison requires a radical and terrifying redesign of life itself. When an organism is trapped in a sealed environment for 5 million years, the pressure to adapt is absolute. You either rewrite your DNA or you become part of the fossil record. Because Movile was sealed during the Miocene epoch, its inhabitants were forced into one of the most radical evolutionary experiments ever recorded. Biologists found that of the 48 species living here, 33 are found nowhere else on Earth. They are the survivors of a process called troglodytic adaptation. First, evolution stripped away the unnecessary. Eyes are a biological luxury that requires significant energy to maintain. In a world of total darkness, they are useless. Consequently, these creatures are completely blind, their eye sockets often sealed over by skin. They lost their pigment. 2. Their bodies are translucent or ghostly white because there is no UV radiation to defend against. But what they gained is far more fascinating. To navigate a pitch-black, toxic labyrinth, these species developed supersenses. Their legs and antennae have grown unnaturally long, covered in specialized chemoreceptors that can detect a single molecule of prey in the air or the faintest ripple in the sulfurous water. The Movile water scorpion, the undisputed king of this abyss, hunts with lethal precision using sensors that see the chemical vibrations of the cave. They haven't just survived the poison, they have mastered it. But this system isn't just a biological freak show. It is a closed loop that challenges our understanding of the entire planet. Movile Cave is not a collection of random biological accidents. It is a perfect, closed-loop chain reaction. The geology provided the hermetic barometric shield, protecting the chamber from the outside world and maintaining the internal pressure. The chemistry provided a fallback energy source through methane and sulfur, effectively replacing the sun with a subterranean engine. And the biology responded by discarding millions of years of surface-dwelling traits to optimize for the dark. This is what scientists call a shadow biosphere. It is proof that life is not a fragile accident dependent on perfect Earth-like conditions, but a relentless force that can conquer almost any environment if given enough time. Movile shows us that life can thrive in a closed system, a self-contained world that doesn't need the sun, the rain, or the atmosphere we breathe. It is a system that has been evolving in parallel to our own, untouched by the mass extinctions that wiped out the dinosaurs or the ice ages that shaped human history. And that's where things break down for our search for life beyond our own world. Why does this toxic pocket in Romania matter to the future of science? Because Movile Cave is our best terrestrial blueprint for finding life beyond Earth. When NASA or the European Space Agency look at the subsurface oceans of Jupiter's moon, Europa, or the methane-rich atmosphere of Saturn's moon, Titan, they aren't looking for forests. They are looking for Movile. This cave proves that life can dominate high-pressure, low-oxygen, and chemically volatile environments that we once thought were sterile. By studying the unique metabolic pathways of the bacteria in this cave, we are learning how to identify biosignatures, the chemical fingerprints of life on other planets. We are learning that the habitable zone of a star system is much wider than we ever imagined. If life can thrive in the toxic darkness of a sealed limestone vault in Romania, it can likely survive in the damp crust of Mars or the deep, dark oceans of an icy moon orbiting a gas giant. Movile isn't just a cave, it is a laboratory for the cosmos. It is the key to understanding how the spark of life might ignite in the coldest, darkest corners of the universe. We may not fully understand every mechanism in this dark abyss yet, but the system is still running, indifferent to our presence. As this hatch is resealed, we leave 33 endemic species to continue their 5 million-year journey in the dark, breathing the air of an ancient Earth and feeding on the energy of the crust. The more we explore the extreme, the more we realize that life doesn't just inhabit an environment, it becomes the environment. It finds the gaps in the impossible and turns them into a home. Stay curious. Respect the extreme.